Today we're looking at Luke chapter 7, verses 36 to 50. And as you might have come to expect, we're finding Jesus at another party. I mean, he lives a pretty good life. I'm a bit jealous at all the meals out he's getting to have. And it's not really surprising. You have to imagine that Jesus would have been a pretty interesting dinner guest. I mean, who wouldn't want to invite him? He seems to always say and to do things that are unexpected. So, of course, even people like the Pharisees, who didn't particularly always agree with Jesus, they knew, look, it's going to be a good party if you invite Jesus. He's going to say something, and everybody's going to be talking about it tomorrow. Did you hear what Jesus said at the latest party? So this Pharisee, we're told that his name is Simon, invites Jesus over for a meal. And throughout the meal, if you read the passage, we see that there's a woman comes and she's identified as just a sinner without a name, which I have to be honest, it annoys me a bit that there's all these nameless women in the Bible, but hey-ho. So there's this woman, and she comes and she recognizes that she's lived a life of sin in the past, but she's turned away from that. She's clearly repentant. And we're told that she's weeping at Jesus's feet. She washes his feet with some expensive perfume. And there's this sort of whole cultural thing that's taking place. And in the midst of this Pharisee, from his point of view, because this is where the story begins, it begins with the Pharisee's point of view, that he's watching this woman come in uninvited to this dinner party and interact with Jesus in a way that he felt was inappropriate. And he's thinking all these things in his mind, and he's thinking, oh, if Jesus only knew, what kind of prophet is he? Because if he really knew what kind of woman she was, it's all from this Pharisee's point of view that he's viewing this situation and this woman in a particular way. And ultimately, from the Pharisees' point of view, the greatest problem in this whole scenario was that Jesus forgives sinners like this woman. And Jesus comes in because, of course, he was a prophet, he was the Son of God, and he did know exactly what this man was thinking and what was in his heart. And so Luke tells us that he addresses the question that the man never asks, which has to be, again, if you're at a party and you're thinking something and the guy across the room answers the question you didn't ask, you're going to be a bit taken aback, I think, and you're going to be telling the story the next day. And so Jesus responds to this thought in his mind by telling a parable. It's a simple parable of two people who are in debt to the same person. One owes a lot of money, one owes a little. Ultimately, regardless of how much they owe, they have the same problem. And this is the key. And Jesus asks this Pharisee, tells him the story and asks him which one is more likely to love the person who forgives their debt, right? Because the person forgives both of their debts. They have big debt, small debt, both are wiped clean. They came in with a debt, they both leave without a debt. And Jesus says, which one loves more? And of course, or was more thankful. And of course, the Pharisee says, well, I guess the one who's been forgiven more. But what's interesting here is Jesus takes this parable, this story, and he turns it around then to help the Pharisee to look at the situation in front of him with the Pharisee and the woman who's termed as a sinner by the Pharisee, and this Pharisee who would have seen himself as a religious, holy, really good person, essentially. And what Jesus does is so interesting because Jesus compares them on equal footing. He says, you invited me to a dinner where you were the host. And he said, imagine that this woman was also hosting a meal. And then Jesus goes and step by step recounts the way that the Pharisee treated him as a honored guest and the way that the woman treated him as if she were hosting the meal. And what he points out is that obviously the woman treats him better, that the Pharisee did only what was absolutely required. He wasn't rude to Jesus, but he wasn't overly nice either. And yet this woman went above and beyond, that just being in the presence of Jesus left her in tears and left her with such gratitude and thankfulness because she knew what Jesus had done for her. You see, from Jesus' point of view, both the Pharisee and the woman were on equal footing. You see, the Pharisee's point of view said that the greatest problem was that Jesus forgives sinners. But from Jesus' point of view, the greatest problem was that the Pharisee didn't see himself as a sinner. You see, they're both on equal footing. The difference was that this woman could recognize the significance of her forgiveness. The Pharisee needed just as much forgiveness as the woman, and it didn't matter if the debt was big or small. The difference was that one of them recognized the significance of forgiveness and the other one couldn't. So my question for you today, as you consider this story, is: are you shocked by the people that Jesus would choose to forgive? Do you look at people around you and think, I can't believe that Jesus would forgive someone like that? Or are you shocked that you're one of the people that Jesus has chosen to forgive?